Western Illinois, 1848. Mormons believe in a type of Christianity that developed in the United States in the 1830s. They first settled in western Illinois, but conflicts with their neighbors made them head west. In 1846, they followed their leader, Brigham Young, to the Salt Lake Valley. Today, this is in the state of Utah. But in 1846, it was not yet part of the United States. They traveled from Illinois through Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, all the way to Salt Lake Valley in Utah. The Mormon Trail was the path the Mormons followed from Illinois to present-day Utah. It stretched about 2,100 kilometers, that is 1,300 miles, from the Mississippi River to the Salt Lake Valley. George Staples. George Staples was born in England. As the oldest son in his family, he went to the United States to seek his fortune. Meanwhile, his parents raised the money for the rest of the family to follow. In 1848, George headed west from Illinois with a group of Mormon pioneers. He was only 14 years old. George grew sick on the road. His fellow travelers did not want to stop and wait for George to recover, so they left him with a local fur trapper. Between 1846 and 1869, about 70,000 people followed the Mormon Trail. Helping Hand, the trapper whom George stayed with, was friendly with a tribe of American Indians called the Sioux. Using herbal cures from local plants, a Sioux woman nursed George back to health. Life among the Sioux. George soon grew well. He wanted to return to his people, but the Sioux could not understand his language. They cared for George and treated him as one of their own. As time passed, George began to enjoy his new life. He dressed in Sioux clothing and followed the Sioux's ways. In the mid-1800s, American Indians made their clothing from plants and animal skins. They sometimes used feathers and shells for decoration. Daily life. In the mid-1850s, young American Indian boys played with their toy bows and arrows and rode fake horses. They also played a game called Shiny, which was like hockey. Players used wooden sticks to push a ball into a goal. The Lost Boy Found. By 1850, George's father James had arrived in Salt Lake. He heard stories from travelers who had seen a white boy living with the Sioux. Finally, a group of settlers went looking for George. When the young boy saw his father, he ran into his arms. American Indian life seemed strange to the new settlers. George never forgot his Sioux mother, and he visited her often. As a man, he wrote treaties, also called agreements, between the Mormons and the local Indian tribes. Central Illinois, 1849. In 1849, an inspector visited a sawmill in California. A sawmill is a building where logs are cut into boards. In a ditch, the inspector noticed something glittering in the water. It turned out to be gold. California Gold Region Direct. The magnificent, fast-sailing, and favorite packet ship Josephine Burton, 400 tons, Captain Anyway, many people were inspired to travel west by posters like this. Poster didn't even need to make much sense, long as they say gold on them. Gold Region Direct. Josephine. On the scene, helping people travel to California was big business during the gold rush. Many businessmen made more money by organizing trips to California than miners made by finding gold. At first, the sawmill's owner, John Sutter, was able to keep the discovery a secret, but word got out, and soon thousands of people were flocking to California. The gold rush was on. People who went to California in search of gold became known as the 49ers. They got this name because the gold rush began in 1849. Miners set up camps wherever they found gold. The trail of camps became known as the Golden Chain. If there was enough gold, a mining camp could grow into a town. Some of these towns still survive today. This is a map showing a lot of the towns still stuck around. Bound for California. Actually, that would be read Bound for California. John McWilliams of Griggsville, Illinois, was not a typical 49er. He was often sick as a boy, and his mother and brother had both died of lung disease. But by 1849, when he was 16, John told his father he was going to California or die. John set out with 3 friends from home. Unlike many pioneers, he was never sick on the trail. In California, John did not have much luck when it came to mining. He and his friends did not know much about finding gold. He wrote, "The California gold diggings, of which we thought so much, didn't look a bit as we thought they would. In my imagination, I thought I was going to dig gold out by the bucketful." Early miners used rocker boxes to separate gold from other rocks in a river. Then one day, John met a friend from home. He showed John how to use mining tools. John was a quick learner, and he found $100 worth of gold in one day. John McWilliams. John's luck did not hold. By the spring of 1850, he and his friends decided to move on. John's adventures then took them to Panama in Central America and New Orleans, Louisiana. He finally settled in St. Louis, Missouri, and raised a family. His granddaughter became the famous chef Julia Child. This painting by artist Charles Christian Nall is called Miners in the Sierra. Nall painted it in 1851. Helping Hand. A man named Levi Strauss made his fortune by inventing something the miners needed. He made a new kind of pants that could withstand the tough life of the miners. The jeans that many people wear today were invented by Levi Strauss.